Today, I'm going to teach you how to multiply what you have from zero, regardless of where you are financially, whether you have experience or no experience whatsoever, and regardless of whether you have children or no children at all. The goal of this episode is to present you in a very strong way in front of any lender so that you can maximize your opportunities to qualify for a mortgage or any loans that you're seeking to get to help you get ahead with your investment plans. And to achieve this, all you need to do are these 8 steps. First, know your net worth. This is basically your financial resume. So whenever you go to a lender, the first thing they're going to try to assess is how much are you worth? You as a person, how many assets do you have? How many liabilities you have? Because if you don't have any assets, chances are it's going to be very hard for you to repay them any possible loans that they might want to give you. And just so you know, your net worth, your DTI, the debt to income ratio, and your credit score are 3 big components that are going to help you determine your odds to get you approved for any financial loans. Now, let's get to the interesting part. How do you define or how do you know how much you're worth? Very simple. Let's take a look at the screen, right? So you have your assets on one side, and then you have your liabilities on the other side. So let's suppose you recently purchased a home and your home is worth $400,000, right? That's how much you pay for it. So we're going to put on the asset column $400,000 for your house. Then let's say you managed to save $10,000 again after, making this large purchase. So when you add the value of that house and your savings, you have a total of $410,000. That is your asset for now. Now, if you transition into the liabilities column, that's basically any debt that you had, anything that you owed and that you have to repay. So let's assume that in this example, you purchased your home using a mortgage. And let's say that you still owe the bank $300,000 in your mortgage. Next, you have credit card debt, right? Let's say you took out some of that car and you worked on some renovations to make the house look prettier and stuff like that. And that overall you spent a total of $20,000, right? So we're going to add that amount to the liabilities column. And let's say you also have some student loans. Let's throw $10,000 there. So when you add up your liabilities, we're talking about a total of $330,000. So when you take your assets minus your liability, you're left with $80,000. That's where you're standing today. That's your starting point. That's how much you know that you're worth. And based on that, you're going to plan or you're going to work on how to improve that, right? So the next step to multiply what you have is to keep increasing your net worth. Because remember, lenders look at your net worth before they even decide on anything else, right? So how do you increase your net worth? Ideally, by increasing your assets. How do you do that? Very simple. That's why I created this video. So step 3 is by investing in the stock market. That's the relatively more comfortable and easiest and fastest way, quote unquote, to increase your net worth. And you can invest in the stock market with just as little as $100. And if you happen to be new and you don't know where to invest in the stock market, I typically like to start off with ETF, which stands for Exchange Traded Funds. An ETF is basically like a pool of different investments that are packaged into one individual item that you can purchase, right? So that way you're investing in a little bit of everything. And at the same time, you're having your risk diversified. My favorite ETF is this one that you see on the screen, and it stands for the Vanguard S&P 500 Growth ETF. Now, in terms of the platforms that you can use, there are plenty in the market that are pretty good. There's Vanguard, there's Fidelity, there is Robinhood, and Robinhood happens to be my favorite because it allows you to buy those shares as a fraction. So let's say, for example, if you were interested in purchasing the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, the value of it, it's definitely more than $100, right? So let's say, for example, that you can only do 100 today because, I don't know, you're brand new and you want to test the waters. So you have the option to tell Robinhood that you only want to invest $100. And in exchange, what the platform will do for you is to sort of like break it down into shares. So that way you have enough shares that are the equivalent of $100. Now, how does this change your net worth? Well, let's assume that you did invest $100 on a monthly basis. So you take 100 and you multiply that by 12 months out of a year, you're getting a total of $1,200. So when you go back to your net worth table, you will add the equivalent of your stocks, which is $1,200. So when you add up your new assets, now you have a new number of $411,200. And minus liability, that will give you a new net worth of $81,200. Now, next step to help you keep multiplying what you have is to consider investing in a good insurance. My favorite are life insurance and precious metals, especially gold. Now, in terms of life insurance, I know there's a lot of stigma around it because people tend to think that, well, I mean, if I buy life insurance, I'm going to be dead and somebody else will be enjoying it. But it doesn't necessarily have to work that way. There are different policies that can be structured to allow you to get cash accumulation. Two of my favorite, it's whole life insurance and index universal life insurance. So what happens is that over time, as you continue to pay the premiums towards your life insurance, you get to enjoy the benefits while you're still alive by accessing that cash value. But if for whatever reason something happens to you and you do die, I mean, you want to make sure that your family stays protected, that maybe your significant other can buy out that share of the business that you used to own, or to finish paying off the mortgage where you built your home together. So it has double benefit. It's not just for when you die. So going back to when you're still alive and you can enjoy the cash value, over the years, as you continue to pay that insurance policy, the cash value will also continue to grow year over year. So let's say that over the years, you managed to accumulate a total of $10,000, right? So you will take those $10,000 and you're going to add it to your asset column to increase your net worth. So we're going to go back to the asset column and we're going to add life insurance, $10,000 worth of cash value. Another positive about your life insurance policy is that eventually, if you continue to contribute towards the premium, the cash value could potentially outgrow the value of your life insurance policy. So let's say, for example, if you originally purchased a $100,000 insurance policy, chances are that over the years, as you continue to contribute, you might as well get cash value that exceeds that $100,000 value. Now, let's transition into the other type of insurance, and that's precious metals. My favorite, it's gold. Why do I refer to gold as insurance? Well, gold is insurance against inflation. It's insurance against the loss of value of your money. That's why I prefer to that precious metal as insurance. And when we talk about buying gold, I'm talking about buying investment grade gold, not pieces of jewelry or anything like that. I'm talking about investment grade coins or investment grade bullions. Now, throughout the years, I've had conversations with friends or other people who are investors, and some of them might not necessarily see the value of investing in precious metals. They think, well, I mean, why would I put my money towards precious metals if I can put it towards the stock market and make it grow faster? That is true. They are partially correct. Yes, your money could grow faster in the stock market, but you can also lose more of it faster. So the whole idea about having part of your money in the stock market and part of your money in precious metals is to help you balance and diversify your portfolio so that you have more to choose from. So typically what happens in the market is that when you hear of good news, your stock portfolio will tend to go up in value by a lot. And then gold tends to stay put or possibly go down in value. But guess what happens when bad news take place? Well, the first thing to go down is your stock market portfolio, but gold will usually go back up in value. So the whole idea of this is, once again, to give you more to choose from. Let's say you come into a scenario and where a project just came out, this piece of property that just all the numbers add up and you really wanted to get your hands on it. You weren't planning on buying it, but now that you see it, you want to buy it. And you're trying to figure out how are you going to get the down payment to lock in that purchase. Well, if things are going well, you can always liquidate your stocks and then use that money towards the down payment. But if things are not so well, you might be losing money if you liquidate from your stock. That's when the gold comes in place because typically they have an inverse relationship and chances are the gold will be at the top. And so this time you can choose to liquidate that gold and use that money towards the down payment without sacrificing your stock portfolio and allow it to come back up. So let's assume that you decided to invest in precious metals. You bought 2 gold coins for the equivalent of 5,000. Now we're going to go back to your assets column and you're going to add those gold coins to your asset column. So we have precious metals equals 5,000. And now we're going to sum up all of your assets, totaling $426,200 minus liability. Now you have a new net worth of $96,200. Welcome to Nova Rise, your channel for financial education. We talk anything related about real estate investment, precious metals, the stock market, and business. Now, let's keep the ball rolling. Another thing you can do to multiply what you have and also improve your net worth is by working on your DTI, by bringing it down. For those who don't know, the DTI stands for debt to income ratio. And what it does is to measure your relationship with debt and your income. So what the lenders will do is look at your total monthly debt and then divide that number by your total gross income. That is income before taxes. So let's say, for example, that within your bucket of debt, you have credit card debt, you have mortgages, and you have your bills, right? Your standard bills, and that your total income is $8,000. So let's say that in your pool of debt, we're talking about credit card, mortgages, and utilities, and all of them add up to $5,000. And when you divide that by your total income, let's say $8,000, we're talking about a DTI of 62.5%. That is pretty high. You want to bring that down ideally to 20 to 30%. The lower, the better. This ratio is extremely important because it tells the lender how you're doing with debt. If they see you have a lot of debt in comparison to how much you made to pay that back, chances are they're just not going to give you the loan or just simply lend you less money. Now, to reduce your DTI, you have 2 options. One is to earn more money, and 2, to reduce your debt. But both of these scenarios will take some time to address. But that's why you're watching this channel, to find creative ways to improve that DTI. So what I personally like to do is to work with balance transfer and use those balance transfers to take care of my credit card debt. I will do the balance transfer from the credit cards with the highest interest rate over to the credit card that is offering me a promotional 0% rate. So that way, it will help me pay off the debt faster without worrying about any additional interest to pay. Now, I know some people are not happy with the fact that when you do a balance transfer, the lender does charge you for a fee. But let's just face it, this is how the way things work. Banks are in the business to make money, so you can't expect them to allow you to do the transfer for free. But overall, if you look at the long term, chances are that when you do that balance transfer, you're going to save more interest in the long run as opposed to paying that one-time fee. Next step, increase your credit score. The best way to do this is by always paying on time and by reducing your debt. But once again, both of these are going to take some time to address. And that's why you're here, to look for creative ways to accelerate that credit score increase. And the way I do it is by requesting a credit line increase. How does that help? Well, very simple. Let's look at this example. Let's say that you have a total credit line in your credit cards of $10,000, but so far you've used up $4,000. That will put you at a 40% credit utilization, right? It's not ideal. It's not the worst, but it's also not the best, right? But if you reach out to the lender and you request a credit line increase, let's say your total credit card line goes from $10,000 to $20,000. Now, if you divide that $4,000 in your debt by $20,000, now you're going to see a new credit utilization of 20%. And so all of a sudden, wow, your debt usage went down, and that increases your credit score almost instantly. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that usually when you're about to request a credit line increase, lenders will like to take a look at your credit. And that usually results in a hard inquiry, which we don't want. So as of today, there are only 3 banks that I know of that don't do a hard inquiry when they review your credit to grant you that credit line increase. And that is Citibank, Chase, and Discover. They all review your credit through a soft pull, and that means it won't impact you in a negative way. So the way I typically request that credit line increase is by simply going to the app. So you have an example here with Discover, right? So you log into Discover, and then you go down onto the service section. And once you click on it, it will take you to the next screen where you will see the option to request a credit line increase. And then once you tap in there, it will take you to the next screen where they're going to ask you for your information about your gross income and about your rent or mortgage. And then you hit submit and you usually get a decision almost instantly. What do you think about this tip? Let me know down in the comment section below. Next step to multiply what you have is to invest in the future of your children, if you have them. You want to start investing and setting money aside for their future now than to start doing it afterwards when you probably have other responsibilities. So my favorite way to do this is by investing in two specific products. One is life insurance and the other one is a 529 plan. They both complement each other. So the reason why I like life insurance, particularly whole life, is because of the cash accumulation feature that allows you to tap into that money sometime in the future in the event of an emergency. I've heard of countless of cases and where parents count only on their health insurance, but then when something happens, sometimes you find the scenario and where the insurance company doesn't want to cover a particular treatment. So you don't want to catch yourself scrambling for money or falling into credit card debt. You can actually reach out to your whole life insurance policy and leverage some of that money to take care of your child's health. And in the event that you don't need that money, well, congratulations, that's great news. You can still use that money in the future for other projects. Let's say help your child pay the down payment for their future home or cover their tuition expenses at college. Now, transitioning into the 529 plan, that's basically a savings plan that gives you tax benefit, and whatever amount that you put aside and that saving gets invested so that it grows over the year, and you can use that money to pay your children's college education or any other expenses related to your child's college education. So if you start right now when they're young, imagine how much that money is going to grow over the years until the time they go to college. Next tip, invest in your education. They say people and money come and go, but your education and your knowledge will never be taken away from you. To start, you can buy a couple of books. My favorites are Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here today creating this content. Second book is The Psychology of Money. And third book is I Will Teach You to Be Rich. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.